Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, February 12th, 2024, and it's raining. It's raining. It's raining. It rained all night. Rained most of the day yesterday, I think. And it's just raining. And we are getting so much rain that I have a small pond in my front yard and a small pond in my backyard. And my neighbors all seem to have their own little small ponds forming in their yards. And we don't have a lot of elevation change, so there's a lot of water accumulating in our neighborhood. And along with that, there are places around where we live, of course, where there's creeks and streams and all that sort of thing. And these places tend to get overflowing water. If you were to look up a place called Starr's Mill, it is showed it in the video. A couple weeks ago, like a walk around video of where I live, and that mill, when it really floods there, it is crazy how much water it flows over that dam that's there. And there's another place locally, I think it's called Frank's Old Mill, and it is a restaurant that's on an old. I guess it's an old mill, but it's on a lake, a small lake. And apparently the news around our community was that place was flooding, and that's normally not what happens at that location. So we have gotten so much rain. I don't know how much has fallen in the last 24 hours or whatever, but it's still kind of trying to rain some more, and it's just going to keep on coming. But that's okay. As long as it's not cold, I'm okay. Now, they're calling, today says 60%. Tomorrow, we're supposed to have sunshine, and surprisingly, we were having some decent temperatures, and they're still pretty decent. We're looking at a low on Sunday of 28 degrees. That's pretty cold, and hopefully it's not a hard freeze. You don't want it to be below that temperature for any length of time. Obviously, you can have problems with that. And typically we don't have to deal with that here in Georgia. So everybody else, I hope things are going well. I know they're forecasting a huge storm hitting the Northeast and dropping tons of snow. So by all means, be careful out there. Winter is still here and still rearing its ugly head, and we're just going to have to deal with it for a little while longer. I hope everybody, again, is doing well. If you are new to my live stream, I do these on Monday nights at 7 o'clock, and we try to focus on classic cars. And I say classic, and I've generalized this quite a bit. 55 up until about 78, 79, somewhere in that range, to me, fits my genre of classic cars. Now, some may have some other input on that, but that's kind of where I fit. And my background, of course, is many of you all know that my dad had a junkyard growing up, and so I've been around cars literally since I was born, and I can't get enough of them, honestly. I mean, if I could have a junkyard today, I would have a junkyard today. I don't know my wife would put up with me, but I would have a junkyard. So anyway, we talk about cars, and generally we encourage people to participate. If you are new here and you participate, you get a bell. And also my regular viewers get a bell as well. And if you ask a good question, we can reward you with another bell. But I ask everybody to be involved. If you have a question or a subject that you want to bring up about these cars, by all means, do it. If I can help you, I will. If I can't, I usually have a great group of people over in that chat box that can answer almost any question that we come up with or you come up with. So all that said and done, let's see who was first in tonight, and that is Terry Keithley. Evening on Barry, and he also says, please hit the like and thumbs up for Barry. Thank you kindly. Yes, by all means, hit that thumbs up button and let YouTube know that, hey, people are interested in seeing what's going on in my garage. So thank you, Terry. Steve Reed, hello, Joe Daddy and everyone. Hope everything is going well. Yes, it seems to be. It seems to be. I know that, I've been out of the garage past few weeks. I was able to get into the garage last week and really start getting back on the Cobra Jet. I feel like I'm probably 90% recovered from my surgery. There's still occasionally things that make me feel uncomfortable, but I'm trying to be, again, responsible and not put any heavy strains on myself in order to cause problems. So glad you're here, Steve. Robert checking in, Infernal Craftsman. Glad you're here, Robert. And Jerry from the Money Pit. Good evening to all from Middle Tennessee. Thumbs up for Barry. Thank you, Jerry. Troy Justit. Welcome to another Monday night of Barry and Bourbon. It does my, I guess he says, it does my heart good to see you back in the garage. Thank you, Troy. You know, I brought it up in, I did a video on Patreon, and I was talking about some things with this car, and I'm bringing this up because Troy has made a comment on that as well. I was considering, and I'm still sort of considering the idea of getting a spot welder. Now, I've looked at Harbor Freight. They have a 120 volt and a 240 volt. And apparently, if you really want it to work, the 240 is the way to go. And I drove up to Harbor Freight today, and I was looking at those. And, you know, you have to find a box that's open so you can see what's there. I mean, they have one on the shelf, but they have it, everything is zip tied down, so you can't even really move it and see how it functions. So I had to find, it was an open box. I didn't open it. It was open. And I started looking at it, and I looked at the instructions. And it's all well and good. The 110 comes with a standard 110 outlet. The 240 or 220, whatever version, doesn't come with an outlet on the end of it. It just comes with, 3 wires sticking out. And so you have to wire it yourself, or that, as they say in the instructions, get an electrician to wire it. Okay. So I started looking at it, and I thought, that cord is not very long. And that becomes a problem. That cord is, I don't even know if it was 6 feet long. And I can tell you that I don't have a 240 or whatever, 220 outlet within 6 feet of anything in here. So on that far wall, I have a 220 outlet. And I also have one up here on this wall, 220 outlet, where the compressor's plugged in and stuff like that. So I started looking at the instructions, and it says if you're going to have a extension cord over X number of feet, and I think in this case I saw something that said 30 feet. And I don't know if I really need 30 feet, but I have to consider the idea of where I'm going to be using it and how I'm going to be using it. So I was looking at that, and it said it had to be 10 gauge. And I thought, oh, all right. So I went over to Harbor Freight, and I'm looking at their extension cords. And it would cost me almost as much for the extension cord as it would for the tool. So I kind of backed away from that. I would like to try it and really see if it would do what I want it to do, which I assume it would. But man, I'd have to double the price just to have an extension cord so that I could use the thing. And then may have to buy other tips and stuff like that, and plus the end. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to hold off. I can weld it. I can do all my welding just like I've been doing. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm still kind of maybe visualizing something down the road. The other part of that is that thing weighs about 27 pounds, I think. So if you're trying to do a flange or something up inside of the car, it could become difficult. 27 pounds doesn't sound like much until you're trying to hold it in position, get everything lined up, and squeeze the trigger and everything. So I was also looking at a counterbalance or a balancer or a positioner that you can hang from the ceiling to support that weight and then move it around, kind of like a yo-yo feel to it. You can move things around. So there's several steps that I may need to look at before I consider actually buying one of those. But glad you're here, Troy. I hope I gave you a bell. Give you another one. Dave Tyson. Good evening, all. Good evening, Dave. First Dave sighting of the night. Rick Gain. Hello, all. Hope everybody is doing well. Thank you, Rick. I hear you're getting some snow. We're going to be getting some snow up that way soon, so bundle up. Bob Shoemaker. Evening, all from partly snowy Oklahoma. We had about 3 inches this morning, just till noon, and then it was gone. Well, that's okay. I think it went back up in the atmosphere and came down in Georgia. There's a lot of rain hitting us. Rusty from Rusty's Restoration. Good evening, Barry and all. Great to see you in the shop. Thumbs up, everyone. Give a thumbs up. Yes. Thank you, Rusty. Richard Vogel. Good evening, Barry. Great to see you back in action. Thank you, Richard. It is good to be out here. It really is. Robert, we got just a little rain from that the other night, maybe half an inch. Yeah, I can tell you, I was trying to sleep last night, and there was so much rain coming down that it sounded like I was next to a creek or something, a stream, babbling rock, water falling over the rocks, because where the rain gutter comes out, it's hitting the ground, and it just sounds like it's, just like hitting like a waterfall. It's kind of like a waterfall. So kept waking up thinking, is there something wrong? And then of course thunder, lightning. Oh my gosh, there were some boomers going on. Dwight Douglas, good evening. Was just checking your last Slither video. One mod leads to another. Yes, it does. And, I knew there was going to be a modification to that. But again, I didn't think about the other pieces, the other small brackets and stuff. Along with that, I'll point out that what I've been doing now is I just recently ground down all of the welds around the perimeter here, all the welds on the inside where the wheelhouses are welded together. I did all that because I want to have everything ready to go, so when I put the quarters on for the last time, I am not worried about getting in there and cleaning that stuff up. Now, is it that critical to have all that ground down? No, not necessarily, but I want it to look clean and smooth, and that's what I'm going to do. Also, I'm going to put seam sealer around where the mini tubs meet the floor pan. I want that to look kind of factory, So, yeah, one mod definitely leads to another. Thank you, Dwight. Mark Watson, good evening. The hooch was getting high this afternoon. Oh, yeah, I'm sure it was. Glad you're here, Mark. Yeah, there was lots and lots of rain. Jerry is checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, y'all. I pray y'all are well and have a wonderful car talk. Stay dry. We finally are. Thank you, Jerry. Marine, 6 to 10 inches of snow for me tomorrow and chillier for the next week or so. Glad you're back up and running too. Thank you. Glad you're here. Rick Stevenson, good evening, everyone. Glad you're here, Rick. And that's a signal to take a drink of coffee. Got to time it out when Rick gets here so I can have coffee ready, right? Robert, winter's officially over here in Texas. Need a helper monkey to help install insulation before summer hits in a month or so. Yeah. I saw the temperatures. It's your summer, your winter's over. Rusty's Restoration sent you a pic of my dash paint, slowly but surely making progress. Okay, let me see if I get that. I have that photo. Let me go over here and clean up. Have to delete a few things. All right. So let's see what Rusty has been doing on his project. It'll pump up. There it goes. Ah, that looks nice. That looks very nice. Yep, I'd be happy with that. Good job. Let's see. Jack checking in. Good evening, Barry, from a soon-to-be buried in snow, New Jersey. Yes. Larry Fordyce checking in. Morning, everyone. Larry's over in Japan, if I remember correctly. Glad you're here, Larry. The Kingsway. Dale from Oakhurst, California. Good to see you in the garage working again. Thank you, Dale. Appreciate that. Big Kingfish. I guess Goon Squad a couple years ago tried a Harbor Freight spot welder. For whatever reason, it didn't last long, and they are back using MIG, etc. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Inflation expert. Yes, he is. Thank you to Marine. Big King. Oh, let's see. Oh, so he says it was Goon Squad. Okay, Big Kingfish. Thank you. Nick Moss checking in. Hello, Nick. Glad you're here. Colin says, hey, everybody. Hey, Colin. And Harvey, Rally Cat Garage. Hey, Barry. Great to see you back in action. Thank you, Harvey. I appreciate that. And we have Randall Heath. Hey, from Utah. Glad you're here, Randall. Dave Tyson. My welders are 220, and I have a 220 extension cord, RV extension cord with new ends. Okay. That might be a consideration. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Dawn checking in from Dawn's Manufacturing. Hello from rainy, sunny PDX. Yep. And Bad Harry is checking in. Good evening, everyone. Glad you're here, Bad Harry. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, so at this point, what I've been trying to do, and I have some important, let's say, step in the next video that I'm working on. I've maybe not stressed it enough. Maybe I haven't stressed it enough that you test fit. test fit, right? So all this stuff is fitting very well. It really is. Overall, there's some minor tweaks that I've had to make. And I don't know, I knew there was a problem on the driver's side with the quarter panel. Not with the panel itself, but with how it fit to the structure. And I already knew this was a problem, and I should have probably addressed this a while ago. But at this point, I am ready to. I'm really close to being at the final step for installing the quarter panels and welding everything in place. And so I've been struggling with how the interaction of the flange on the upper midsection on the roof here would fall into place onto the inner structure. And I pointed out, and I stress this in the video that I'm making, that there was issue with how dynacorn made those panels. And I pointed out before there are measurements that aren't right, and there's things that just don't quite line up the way they should. The passenger side, it's like dead on. And the driver's side, there are some minor variations in how they assembled it. And there's really not much you can do about it, because it's also because the metal, I think, is made slightly off for whatever reason. Like it might be a quarter inch too long here and a quarter inch too long there. When you start putting those together, you end up with a half inch somewhere. So I've adjusted for all that. And again, that quarter, when it sits on the flange, there's actually a little hump built into the quarter panel. You can actually see it on that side if your camera's good enough. There's a little hump right there, and I think that was a factory design to where when the quarter was hung, it set in the right spot. It would not move. It made perfect sense. You would have something kind of like a hook, let's say, that it holds on to. Well, the passenger side, that hook is 3/4 of an inch away from the edge of the flange. And on the driver's side, it's less than half an inch. So what that really means is, for that quarter to sit on, it's pushing it away or inboard more on that flange. And so I was like, I should have addressed it before. It's not affecting the end product as far as everything is fitting the way it should, but I was forcing it into place, and I don't like to do that. So earlier, I cut that thing. I cut a slit in that bump and reshaped it, and I'm going to weld it back together. It doesn't need to be because it's not doing anything, but I will weld it back together just because. And once I brought the quarter over and set it on, and it went, basically fell right into place. So it's just one of those things. Test fit. I did a little reel on that, put it on the Facebook page, and also put it on Instagram, so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. But I will be stressing it in the next video, because I'm getting really close to just doing a whole bunch of welding and have the back half of the car all put together. Robert, I keep an eye out for spot welders, but for solid sheet metal welds, if it isn't a water-cooled machine, it doesn't have the amps to do it. The Harbor Freight would do door skin tacks. Yeah, and in this case, it says on their ad it can do up to 3/16 thickness of metal. This metal here around the flanges where the roof is and the flange for the inner structure, that's really thin stuff overall. It's probably not combined 60 to 70 thousandths of an inch. So I don't know. I watched some videos of somebody else using one, and they were putting together sheet metal panels for like an old truck or something, and it seemed like it was doing what they wanted it to do. Now, again, they had no they weren't offering, let's say, a link or anything, like if they bought it that they would get a kickback or something like that. They were just showing the tool and how well it operated for them. So anyway, whoops. Marine, what is your trick to avoid ground issues while welding to avoid shocks? To avoid shocks? That's an interesting question. You're getting shocked when you're welding? Like, are you using like a MIG machine? Because I've never had a problem with getting shocked while I was welding with any MIG machine, ever. But that's an interesting question. Because you brought that up, and I probably have mentioned this before, I'm going to go ahead and do a junkyard story. I'm going to do a junkyard story because you just tripped my memory. And forgive me if I've shared this. I'm sure I have shared this before. But, a long time ago, growing up in the junkyard, my dad had the Lincoln Tombstone welder, the big 220 heavy-duty stick welder, right? And for whatever reason, the cables on that thing are only so long. So my dad decided to lengthen those. He just used the heavy cable and used like copper pipe and put everything together and crushed the copper pipe around it. And I don't know if he soldered it. I don't know. I don't remember. But anyway, me and my brother would use that welder all the time. And so we had these long extensions where you had a ground, and it would be touching, it would be raining or something, and that thing would be on the ground, and it would ground everything kind of around you, right? And one day, my brother was welding something on a truck, and he had been welding, and he stopped, and it had been wet and rainy that day, and he stopped welding, and I had walked up on him, and I was talking to him about something, and I asked him what he was doing, and he, without trying to hurt me or seriously hurt me, he he took that 220 stick welder and he pushed it against my chest. Now this is where it's funny because I'm still alive, but the ground cable being on wet and on the ground, my feet were wet, I was wet, and so I'm standing on the ground or near the ground cable, and when he put that 220 up on my chest, it was putting voltage into me. So my eyes got big, and I started twitching, and he was like, "Oh." So anyway, don't do that. Don't do that. It was it was shocking. All right, so we'll get, that's enough of that. But that's something I always remember. That was one of the funny things I remember in my brother and I working on stuff like that. Let me get back up here. So anyway, I don't have a trick necessarily for avoiding, ground issues. I will bare the metal and put the clamp on, and that's about the only thing I worry about. But I have not had anything, anything shock me when I've been welding. So I've had lack of ground, but never an issue with. And of course, I'm always wearing gloves. I make sure I try to keep the radiation from the burning of the metal from getting onto me and all that sort of thing. So I don't have an easy answer other than I haven't had that issue. Bad Harry, my dynacorn quarters didn't fit so well. I had to do quite a bit of mods to both sides. Yeah, now yours is a 68 though. I think they've really done their homework on the 69. I mean, seriously, these things are about as close as you're ever going to get, in my opinion. Robert says the tips are very small diameter on a Harbor Freight welder. Yeah, and I was looking at that. You can grind them and make the tips flatter, which would make them broader, which I think that would work. But you're right. Don Marine friend does for some reason. Sorry. Yeah, that's odd. It sounds like there's got to be a moisture issue somewhere for it, especially if he's using a MIG, because a MIG is so isolated. The stinger, or whatever you want to call it, the whip, it's all independent. So there must be something else going on there. There's got to be some sort of problem with the machine or with the wiring in some way. Nick says, don't sweat, maybe. Haha, check to make sure your outlet is grounded proper. Wear long sleeves. That's good advice, Nick. Thank you for that. Larry, need advice from the squad. 289, no smoke start, idle, or street driving. After highway driving, as soon as he let off the gas, gets blast of smoke. PVC modulator, any thoughts? Valve stem seals. Yeah, it very likely could be valve stem seals. Yeah, get blast of smoke. Here's something. It could be valve stem seals. And I'm not saying this is just something that struck me whenever you just saying that. I had now this was a Chevy truck that I had years ago, and I was having a problem with smoke coming out of the exhaust, and I just put head gaskets on it and the heads were redone and all this stuff, and I was like, man, I must have had a failure of the intake gasket. So I took it off, replaced the intake gasket again, and same thing. And I was like, something's wrong here. Something's just not making sense. And what I had done is I had connected the how was it? It was something to do with the transmission module. I had put it in the wrong place on the intake manifold, and it was basically sucking transmission fluid into the intake, and that was creating smoke. Now, this doesn't sound like the same situation. This does sound like valve stem seals, but there's always something that can cause problems that makes you think it's something else. But in this case, I would say it's probably to do with the valve stem seals. I don't know what the how old everything is, what the life is on it. So stuff like that does wear out and cause problems. Robert, never been shocked welding. Power coating, however, if you hold the gun and touch the part that being coated and having the trigger pulled, not fun. Yeah, don't do that. That's don't do that. Nick says valve stem seals, talking to Larry. Yes, I agree. Dawn, I can get a tickle from my titanium MIG if the ground is wonky. Okay. Interesting. Nick says, Larry says, thanks to Nick. And Nick says, I have some umbrella shields if you're close by. And I don't need. And St. Louis. Larry's in Japan. So maybe you just drop them off. Robert, yep, usually intake ones. The engine is under high vacuum then and will pull oil through them, but also means the guides are probably worn as well. Yes, combination thereof. Marine, yep, they're your buddies. Okay. Dave Conville, good evening from New Jersey, waiting for the storm. Well, it's coming. Nick, check your PVC valve too. Make sure the deal is rattling around in there. Yeah. PCV. Yes. Thank you, Nick. Oh, you missed the part. PCV. Okay. Chris Greenaway. How's everyone? Pretty good, Chris. Hope you are well up in the Great White North. Rick Gain, thanks for the junkyard story. Glad you survived. Yeah. It was an interesting event. I'll say that. Wally, the 68 Mustang Restoration. Highway has higher RPM, maybe building too much crankcase pressure and migrating up PCV. Disconnect PCV for a test. So good question, or that's good response. Thank you, Wally. Glad you're here. Robert, Larry can get parts from Texas if he has a place for me to stay. There you go. Ed Cucharella, pull the hose at the vacuum modulator and see if any fluid drips out. There you go. Another great option. Thank you, Ed. Chris Greenaway, seeing all grass in the early part of February is eerie. I'm sure it is, and I don't know exactly where you're at in the Great White North, but I know that there's storms coming up from up the East Coast anyway. So there's probably going to be some bad weather coming through. I don't know if it'll reach you though. I've had some good conversations recently. There's another gentleman building a 69 Mach 1 down in Florida. And he is using all NPD parts. And we have had a few discussions on the differences between NPD and dynacorn. And it's interesting to see some of the problems he is having. He's at a point now where he's getting ready to put in the seat divider, which I just did a video on. So he was happy to have that information of the measurements and stuff like that because he didn't have any of that. And we met on the phone today. We were talking about some things, and we were verifying the fitment of the roof line to the quarter panel, and also some other things going back and forth. What's interesting is like the roof, the dynacorn roof, and the NPD roof. Of course, the NPD is all black because it's in EDP coating. And I'm assuming, I really doubt there's two manufacturers of these roofs. Wouldn't make any sense, right? So looking at his and seeing it on video and comparing it, they look like the exact same things. Now, he was having trouble with the fitment of the roof to the A-pillars. He had some problems there and a little bit of problem in the back. But we were looking at that and trying to help each other, make sure he's on the same page. And I showed him, went back and looked at my Mach 1 so you could see where the things fit together, right? So that was good to have that conversation and help him out with that. But he is building this thing and he's putting in a Watts 4-link rear suspension. And one thing we talked about, and I'm sure he said he'd already tested this stuff, but he's using a dynacorn floor pan. Basically, he's doing the same thing I'm doing right here. And if you remember back when I did the Brooklyn Pony, I put in that, whatever that suspension company was. I can't think of the name at the moment. But whatever it is, TCI, I don't know. I put in the overlap pieces that went over the frame rails. And I had to modify those because the original design of the frame rail in the back versus the dynacorn version is different. So the dynacorn one was a little bit wider, and the people that had designed that sleeve, let's say, were designed to fit the original. So I ended up having to modify that to make it slip over the dynacorn. Now, according to him, that Watts 4-link, they sell basically a channel that goes over the frame rail, just like a complete overlap of the frame rail, and it has all the mount points already attached. Now, according to him, that thing fit perfect. So I don't know if the engineers, let's say, with whoever designed the Watts, took into consideration that dynacorn is remaking these things and they need to compensate for that, or if they just made it slightly oversized just so there'd be room in case there was some variation, let's say, in the angles. If they didn't get the frame rail in just right, it might be off a little bit, and this would allow for some movement to get over that. But I was really like to see that stuff and see some of those different designs. He's also putting in a Mustang 2 style front suspension and a floating Ford 9-inch and all that stuff. So it's going to be a real race car when he's done with it. And I'm looking forward to updates on that. He has a YouTube channel. Trying to think. I don't know if it's under his name or not. I'd have to look it up. But he does some really nice work. He doesn't put out a lot of videos, but he does put out some. I know it's. I'd have to look up the name of his channel if you were all interested. Let's see here. Robert, February is one of the few months we have grass. Yeah. After that, it's just, dirt and sand, right? Terry Keithley, now, after you stopped twitching, did you tell... Oh, did you tell... Yo, I guess Mom, Hank tried to kill me. Just wondered. No. No. She already knew that was, she didn't bother. She knows that we were always in danger of not surviving the day. Marine, Buddy's joke was about your buddy placing a live 220-volt stick to your rod chest while your feet were in a puddle. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was my brother. Sorry. Yeah, my brother did that to me. But now I get it. Thank you. Larry, another problem. 58 people watching, only 19 likes. Stuck mouse buttons. Yeah. Chris Greenaway, 30 minutes from the coast of Huron, makes me want to pull the formula out of storage when it's near 40 to 50 degrees. Yeah. That would be nice. Good driving around weather. Dawn, check if PCV oil is building up under the carb spacer. So there's another option for you, Larry, to check into. So thank you, Dawn. Okay. So what is everybody else working on, or what subject matter do we need to bring up? I know that generally I'm here and I'm talking a lot, and I'm trying to give information and share what I'm doing and different things like that. But it's nice to have some sort of question or subject so that we can all participate. It's sometimes it's hard for me to just come up with things for everybody to be involved with. But that's okay. That's okay. I will do what I can. The other thing we had, who else? Oh, I had another person ask me questions about frame thickness. Frame thickness, because they were looking at patching up the difference between the sheet metal thickness of the body and like frame rail thickness. So I was able to give him some answers for that. And, it's good to have people interested in asking questions when they're trying to rebuild something. And I want them to use the right materials. So if they're trying to patch a frame rail, I definitely don't want them using sheet metal to try to, piece it back in there. There's ways to do it right, and there's ways that people do it wrong. We don't want to have any of that. Dawn says Betsy is getting her horn ring installed. Okay. That's a big plus. And more problems with the suspension. Okay, so I know that, Dawn, you shared some stuff with that before. And, yeah, I know you're looking for, obviously, the performance side of things and trying not to have these problems. I hate that you're having to go through all that. I really do. But I know it'll be right when you're done. Troy, I'm putting the right hand skirts on. The front one fit great and went right in. The back one is going to require a lot of modification. The right hands. You talking about the aprons? I'm assuming aprons. The front one is great. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Chris, Barry, how do you use temporary paint fixes where you don't want to do a whole panel? Around the scoop, my formula is rusted, but otherwise hood looks mint. That's a hard question to answer. If you have problems with around the scoop, man, because that paint back then, if the original paint, I think that was a single stage, and so yeah, you almost have to do the whole hood, but I know it won't match necessarily. But I do, if I've got rust like that, I try to obviously treat the rust, get it all out, get it back to primer. But I don't know an easy way to tell you to blend that paint or anything like that, because it's not gonna react the same. It's not gonna look the same. So that's a hard question to answer. Generally, when I'm doing this sort of thing, I'm doing the whole panel or the whole car. Which makes it easier overall when you're trying to paint stuff. When you're trying to blend things or try to fix stuff like that, it really makes it difficult, because no matter what you do, the paint is going to look different. It may look, so Robert is saying the factory paint on that F-body would be lacquer, not very repairable. Yeah. Yes, I don't know. I don't have an easy answer for you on that. Unless you just have to do probably do the whole hood, unfortunately. Robert says, I think Betsy just likes Don's attention, so everything goes wrong. Yeah, we don't want that kind of attention, though. Troy, the front one came from National Parts Depot, and the back one from CJ Pony. There's, I hate to say it. I know CJ Pony is providing us with parts, and they're using that CJ Classic stickers and stuff, and I can't find any value in that. Nothing I've touched that said CJ Classic has fit the way it's supposed to do. So I think it's kind of a scam that they're running, where they say, oh, it's a CJ Classic. It means it's better. No, it doesn't. If I'm going to have to get parts in general, honestly, especially for these cars, I'm going to try for dynacorn as much as I can now. Or was it Mustang GT? Is that Robert knows Mustang GT makes a lot of this stuff, but anything that says CJ Classic, I don't even want to touch. I don't feel good about it. I've got 3/4 skins back there for this car that I wouldn't even put on the car. They're junk, in my opinion. It might work for a crash panel. Like if you're building a demolition derby car and you wanted to just put a quarter on it, that'd be great. Put that on there, run some screws through it, go out and crash it. But that's all I would use those for. Troy says aprons, yes. And I also got the front frame rail tips replaced with the help from your light blue Mustang video. Awesome. That car did a lot to help people, I think. Lots of information on there. Michael Pagliarini. Hello all. Getting ready for the snow. 8 to 12 inches. Has anyone had problems getting rebuilt kits for a C4? That's a good question. I don't know. Anybody know anything about getting a rebuild kit for a C4? Let Michael know. Glad you're here, Michael. There's another bell if I didn't give you one. Maureen, curious of your opinion. Should I uncar? Wait a minute. What is that saying? Oh, okay. Hold on. Uncarjack and wake up my 65 wake up my 65 fastback middle of winter during unsuspecting nice weather, take a quick ride, or leave it as usual hibernating until April or May. Well, I don't know what you've done. If you got it sitting, I guess on jack stands, is that what you're saying? That's a tough question. Without knowing your weather patterns and all that sort of thing. That's really up to you. If you've got some nice weather, it's kind of fun to take them out and drive them around, right? Because April or May, that's a couple more months before you can really get it out and enjoy it. That's a tough one to answer. I can't really say one way or the other, to be honest. It'd be tempting to get it out though. Jerry, I will be pulling my engine and transmission in order to check the measurements on the front end. I hope it's just the apron's out of place, which is causing the alignment problem. Yeah, we've had an ongoing discussion with Jerry on his Mustang Coupe. It's a 65 or 6, I don't remember which, same car, but he's had problems with the hood alignment and a variety of things. And unfortunately, Jerry got this car, and it had been worked on by somebody who probably hid a bunch of damage and sold it off, right? So now Jerry is trying to fix it, and he's running into more problems. And it's just what people do to hide stuff. This guy that I was talking to down in Florida, he also showed me the 69 Mach 1 that he bought, that he basically just had to trash the whole car because the car looked in as bad a shape as this car did when I started working on it. Things rusted out. But the difference was somebody had packed that thing with Bondo and shaped it and made it look like it was a really nice car, when in fact it would have, from what I saw, if he had probably bumped into something, maybe a trash can, that car would have just collapsed on itself. It was really that bad. But people do this stuff all the time. They take advantage of people, and they cover up all the garbage, make it look nice or decent, and say, okay, here you go. Have at it. It's all ready. Enjoy. So, Jerry, I know you're going to have some issues with everything there, but hopefully it is something simple as far as the aprons go. But make sure, again, we have to make sure everything is measured out correctly. These cars are very deceiving. Like we're talking about these aprons. It's easy to get an apron anywhere on that firewall. I mean, you can look at it and think, okay, this is good, but is it really? Unless you have those measurements and it's all zeroed out, it'll affect the next piece, which in this case would be like the hinges, which then affects the hood, which then affects how the hood latches. So it all just compounds. So yeah, we'll have to see what the end result is when Jerry gets it all apart. Chris, my car needs paint, but for now I just want to get by for a few seasons to save up. Okay, well, probably your best bet is to just kind of clean up that area, maybe expose enough of it to get the rust, past the rusted area. Use an etch or acid that'll clean up that rust, treat it, and then again, your options for painting are limited without knowing how big this space is or how bad it is. You may end up just kind of masking it and shooting even just a rattle can of paint and kind of misting it across and trying to get it to blend in a little bit. But that's probably the best you're going to be able to do at this point until you can actually get it all apart and clean it up. Dawn says, Robert, you're not wrong. Talking about Betty having problems. Betsy, sorry. Isaac, good evening all. To change the subject, but I'm looking for a 2-post lift. Any ideas? So many out there, hard to decide. Glad to catch you live. Glad you are getting back to it, Barry. Thank you, Isaac. There's a variety of companies out there that sell these lifts. And like Robert had found a used one on Craigslist. And it was a really nice looking lift and really good price. So, if you're looking at getting a new one, that's fine. Maybe you can find one that's a used one. I think the top line, the rotary lifts. And again, you have to think about what you're going to be using. If you're using a 2-post lift, as an example, the one I have right now is 2-post with the cable on the floor. I don't have it going overhead. Does that make a difference? Maybe. Does it matter? A little. Because the difficulty, what I have is there's a little plate on the floor that I have to roll over when I'm putting a car in. That's the only thing. The plate covers up the cables, and that's it. And I don't think I have the height to put in the tall post for that cable system. So, that's some things you have to consider when you're looking at those. Would I be interested in a rotary lift? Maybe, but there's some of those also, they angle them. So like mine is square, posts are parallel to each other, and there's other ones where they're turned slightly, and that kind of changes geometry a little bit and how it lifts. It's not going to make much difference. They still work the same function, but I can't say that there's one over another that I could recommend. But you could look at, I think it was Redline, the company that I bought this rotisserie from. I think it's Redline Rotisserie. Yeah. And I think they have a, they probably have the 2-post lift there. So you might want to take a look at their site. I'm just kind of pulling it up just to see what they have. Yeah, they have a few different 2-post lifts. Some of them are really expensive, but they have a 9,000 pound 2-post lift for $4,000, an overhead lift. They have one like mine for $3,089 on sale right now. So, yeah, have a look at their site. You might find something you like there. Redlinestands.com. And if you do get something, tell them I sent you. But I know I can't. I'll just post this. I know it won't. And down the bottom there. So redlinestands.com. Check them out. That's where I got the rotisserie in the box that I went and picked up last month and a half, 2 months, whatever it was. Nice guys. So check them out. All right, let me see where we're at here. I got out of place. Hold on. Where's it at? Okay. Yeah. So 2-post lift, redlinestands.com. Got it. Robert, I don't see CJ's prices are competitive much anymore. Being cheaper in the past, you knew it needed work, but now it's priced too high for what they are. I agree. Bad Harry says, Del Marine, don't do it unless you didn't winterize with gas treatment and fog the cylinders, etc. Okay. That's good advice. Thank you, Harry. Robert, all the lifts are imports now, and most of the importers are in the Fort Worth area, as most used to be built here. Pick one that is bigger than you need and that they have parts. Yes, that's good information, Robert. Ed Cucciarella, yes, C4 parts are getting a little harder to get. Some bushings are not available. Direct drum bushing. Okay, thank you, Ed. Steve Reed, got my C4 rebuild kit from, I guess, O'Reilly here in Paducah, Kentucky. Thank you, Steve. And Jeff. Awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. And he also says, hi, Barry and everyone. Hi, Jeff. Glad you're here. Let me get back up. Robert. Derek Weaver is local here, and they ship all over, and I have been to their place, and they have a decent parts department. So there's another input. Chris Greenaway, for anyone interested in repairing F-Body Firebird Central. Oh, I guess F-Body Firebird Central are great people. Thank you, Chris. Give you an extra bell for that. Isaac, thanks in Infernal. That's what I've been running into. Okay. Terry Keithley sent you three pics of hopefully my next project. Need a title. Anyone know where I can buy one? Hold on just a second. So needing a title, that's going to be probably a little bit of a challenge. I don't know what's available as far as in your area or what options you have. Like, I know there's things that are, bonded title and different things like that. But I don't know what restrictions there may be. Here in Georgia, we don't need titles. So it's a 47 Ford, and nothing wrong with that. That's cool. Here's another, if it'll pop up. There you go, another angle. I like the old buildings in the background too. Get me one of those. They're cool. Yeah, but I don't know exactly where you can find a title. Now, let's say I know somebody who's done some internet searches before on different forums, and they have said they're looking for a collectible data plate that they might be able to put on a wall display or something like that. I've heard of people doing stuff like that. Like they've had an old junkyard or something that would salvage those parts so that people could collect them and hang them on a wall or something, like as artwork. I've heard of that. Now I don't know any direct connections to that. I don't have any information. I'm just saying that I've heard of people that would buy collectible stuff. So, just saying. Robert, the one locally was a floor model, $1,900 installed, bottom cable. Would like to have it, but that's not bad at all. $1,900. That's a good deal, I would think. So Robert has sent me a picture as well, and I think it's from that place. So $1,900. I'm guessing. Well, now the floor model too. So, that looks basically like the same stand that I have right now in my garage. Yep. That's a good deal, especially installed. Oh yeah. So Delmarine is tempted to get his car out. Randall Heath saw an awesome one post lift with two arms that you can move around like a pallet jack with a car on it at a customer's hangar. I have to wrap my head around that. A one-post lift with two arms that you can move around like a pallet jack. Okay. Okay. That sounds interesting. I've seen some small lifts, but I don't know if I can register that as a one post. My mind doesn't wrap around that right now. So I will download this pic from Chris. Wait a minute. And we'll see if I can put that one up as well. Because he was talking about the hood. I don't know if it'll show up very well on there. I know it's hard for me to see that. Yeah, I can't really make out. Looks like it's just around the edges where the scoop is. I like the front of that car. I like the nose on those a lot. That was when they made it look right. The next version, not so much. Really hard to see that. All right, where are we at? Isaac, yes, that's a good perspective. It's really for my 68 coupe. Okay. Yeah. As I pointed out, redlinestands.com. Don Marine, I still need to renovate my original 4-speed top loader. Hard to find parts or local help with it. Yeah, I've got a transmission guy that I don't use often enough. I have he rebuilds stuff. That's his livelihood, and I can take him something and he'll build it right for me. But I don't. I probably should actually have him rebuild several, so I just have them sitting here waiting. But I just haven't used them enough in that sense. Bad Harry, if you don't have the headroom, then get a lift with the cable on the floor. But if you have the headroom, get one with the overhead cables. The hump on the floor that covers cables can get in the way, and that is true. That's a thing where the only issue I've had with that is just rolling a car across it, and it's about an inch tall with a taper, so the cars tend to roll over them pretty easily. But and it does collect dirt and stuff like that, so that is another thing to think about. Robert, the part stash is in the far back of that picture. Oh, parts. Okay. Yeah, parts for them to work on those things. Okay. Wally, I watched a VinWiki episode where with the correct docs you can get get a title issued for your car. Forget the state they use looking now. Yeah, I know Vermont, there was a thing called the Vermont loophole, where if you had a bill of sale, you could take it to them or send it to them, and they would send you back a Vermont title, and then you could transfer it over. I've also heard Florida, I think if you have a registration of some sort, that they will, if you register it in Florida, they will issue a title. And then that title can then be used in other states. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. So there are some gray areas with some of that stuff. Keith Miller really enjoyed the information on installing the firewall and torque boxes and front rails on the convertible job. Well, thank you, Keith. Randall Heath says Atlas XHPS P6000 is a 6,000 pound portable single post lift. Okay, I'll have to look that up. Thank you, Randall. Chris, I'll snap some pics because it's stored at my workplace. So okay. And Dawn, that's because it looks like a Studebaker. Yeah. Robert, for auto transmission parts, see if you have a Repco warehouse there where the shops buy from. So good information there. Thank you, Robert. Wally says that sounds right. They can register it, then you transfer it. Yeah. Now here's the thing. I think with either my head's crooked or my hat's crooked. I don't know if you have to be a Florida resident. I'm assuming you do. So you really need somebody who, lives in Florida, that you could maybe use their statehood and get a car registered, let them get the title, and then sell it back to you or whatever. So that may be how it's done. I think there was some others. I don't remember what the other states are, but I know that's one that I've heard of. Okay, so Robert says he has sent me a picture of that lift. Ah. Oh. I like that. I like that. Let me get that up here. Wonder what that thing sells for. That seems like something I may have seen at SEMA. Man, I wonder what the rating is on it. That's a pretty serious little machine there. But wow, that would be nice. That would be really nice. I'm sure it's not cheap. Del Marine, good night all. Kiddo, bedtime until next Monday. Cheers. All right, glad you're here, sir. Let me pull that picture down. I really like that lift. I'd like to see it in action. Chris, the 7778 nose is where it's at. Where it's at the 7981 Endura plastic looks great with fresh paint. But I see so many 7981 butchered nose jobs of the 77 to 78 graft that it's worse than the 70s plastic surgery. Yeah. Yeah, the 7778 is the best looking one out there. Okay, Robert says $4,300 for that thing. And I guess Dave Tyson saying 6,000. So I'm guessing 6,000 pounds? Wow. Yeah, 6,000 pounds. Ooh, that's impressive, honestly. So 3 tons. Okay. I would take one of those and probably remove the 2-post lift that I have. Yeah. I'm now having post envy. I like that. Bad Harry, I have trust issues with putting 3,000 pounds over my head. I think they need both posts. Yeah, I could see that. Rick Stevenson, to get a title in Florida, they are required to do a VIN verification. They will have to physically see the VIN in 2 different locations. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know that a 47 would have had 2 different locations, though. A 47 truck. I doubt that they would have had 2 different locations. They're lucky to have one. Randall, my son titled a motorcycle with only a bill of sale here in Utah. So there you go. And Robert, there's a really nice Bandit car I see here every so often. Good looking cars. Yeah, I do like the Bandit cars. The first one, the later one, not so much. I know it's the same car, but it's just that the nose just doesn't work for me. Chris Greenaway, problem is I don't want to repaint it because it's gorgeous as a survivor. I understand that. Dwight Douglas, how do you feel about the 4-post lifts? I like 4-post lifts. Very handy. I wouldn't mind having a 4-post lift if I had room for it, because with a 4-post lift, now granted I can put the 2-post, I use the 2-post and I've had 2 cars, or I've had a car underneath it. The 4-post, I feel a little more secure with that. And you can also, depending on what you're working on, like in the 2-post mode, if you wanted to pull the rear end, you need a jack or something. And that's good. In the 4-post, you really don't want to do that kind of work on that, from my understanding. I mean, you can, but you're going to have to lift the car and put jack stands on the lift in order to support the car to get things like the rear end out of it or the front suspension out of it. So there's a trade-off to that. There's definitely, one has an advantage on one side of things and one has the advantage on the other. A friend of mine who has a muffler shop, he has a 4-post lift because he needs exposure in the middle, and it just works for him. He doesn't have to worry about it. He drives the car and it's on. When you do the 2-post, you got to get the car centered up, get the arms articulated to where they fit the frame and all that sort of thing. So that's where the 4-post is really nice, because you just drive it on and you go. So there's all kinds of different ways to look at it. I wish I had room for both. I would like to have both. In fact, I'd like to have 3. I want the 2-post, the 4-post, and the 1-post. Keith Miller just wondering what weld in front ends you like for better steering geometry and Ackerman angles just for cruising. No need for track racing. Thoughts? Thanks again. I probably don't have an easy answer for that because I that's not something I really research a lot. You know, there's a lot of, to me, like the simplest thing is putting in a Mustang 2 style suspension. Now, there's variations to all of that. I know Robert is putting in a different setup in his vehicle. The Chris Alston stuff that was bought for the Slither project, even though we're not using it, it's kind of cool because it has coilover setup and heavier duty or more heavy duty arms, upper and lower control arms. But you know, just for cruising around, I don't know that I would invest in anything beyond the factory stuff. Just to be honest, if I'm just driving the car around here to there, car shows, not trying to go out and do autocross or anything crazy, I think I just leave it alone, to be honest. You can upgrade a lot of things. You can increase the, put better brakes on, different things like that. So sometimes you have to think about, is it worth it for what I'm doing? If I'm just driving a car and having fun with it, I'd probably just leave it alone, to be honest. Just my opinion. Michael Pagliarini, Transtar has been the only company that has kits in stock. Most places have said 5 to 6 weeks out. Okay. Terry Keithley, here in good old Illinois, when you go into the DMV and inquire about an old car, they put a jar of lube on the counter and smile. Oh, did I start giggling? That's the other thing. Jerry just sent you a link, 2,500 kilogram for 1,800. Single. Oh, okay. That's a single post from Alibaba. Yep. Yeah. I can't share the pictures of that, I don't think. But yeah, that looks very similar to what was being offered there. I don't know how good that is from Alibaba. I don't know. But thank you for that, Jerry. Bad Harry, the 4-posts have all the attachments to make it work like a 2-post. Okay. Chris, been saving money for a formula overhaul this spring with rims, finishing, and exhaust plus glass and trim installation. Okay, good. Jerry, I have a 4-post. I added air over hydraulic movable lift, which fits on the lift and can be rolled the full length. All right, that's awesome. Dawn, stay away from Heim joints. Just saying. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Keith Miller, thumbs up. Yeah. Robert, if I could only have one lift, I'd want a 4-post alignment lift, has a built-in pneumatic lifts, and also does alignment. Well, that would be nice. That would be definitely a valuable lift to have. Eddie Jesselink, I'm working on my 70 Boss 302, and I watch you for ideas and guidance. Thanks, Eddie. Glad you're here. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward, obviously, to getting another video out this week. Oh, and also, I forgot. I have another Viewers Project video that I'm going to be putting out. If you remember, I had a young guy named Christian Stefan, I think is how it's pronounced. He is from Romania, Bucharest, in Romania, and he has, I want to say it's a 67. I think it's 67 Mustang, and it's amazing that you saw, maybe saw in the video before. I had the Viewers Project. He did an initial one, and he was working in a garage that was the size of the car. I mean, just a tiny little space, and working on that car. And just to imagine that there is any Mustang in Romania that he restored, and he's driving this thing around and enjoying it. He actually sent me another video of the car all together, and he was doing some work to it. I know he had taken the hood off, but he did another viewer's project video. So I'm going to have to maybe edit that just a little bit and then put it up on the channel as well. I think it's fun to see that stuff. So it's one thing to see me or anybody who does it regularly and put this stuff together, but when you have somebody else who's doing it in their home garage and they're showing the things that they've learned, I think it's really cool. It really connects with me and hopefully connects with a lot of everybody, the viewers that want to see that sort of thing. Robert, I was amazed at how he could work in such a small space there in Romania. Yeah, and it's just really cool. He's on Instagram, and again, I think it's Kristen Stefan. I forget how it's exactly. Hold on just a second. If you're interested, if you follow people on Instagram or anything, it's Well, it's Christian but it's not spelled with the H. It's CRI. Let me just type it in. CRISTIANSTEFAN. So, if you were to look him up on Instagram, that's who you'd find. And he makes some neat little videos and stuff with his car. And so, shout out to him for being able to build a Mustang or rebuild a Mustang in Romania. Dave Tyson worked with all kinds of lifts. 4-post hide too much? Oh, you're talking about whenever you're trying to access stuff. I get it. That's what I was saying earlier. Whenever you have the car on the tracks, but then you want to get suspension worked on, or you have to do more to get into those spaces. So that's what I was saying earlier, and I agree with you on that. I do. Throat's starting to go. Trying to hang in there. What else was there? I think that's where we're at as far as everything is starting to come together here. Yeah. That's we're looking good. And again, I'm going to make the video with Christian, put that out, and also work on one more video coming up on the Slither project. Chris, best lifts are jack stands and an old school mechanic tunnel / chute. Okay. I know, like, my grandfather used to have I have a picture somewhere of the Model A, and in front of his house was on a pretty good hill, and in front of the house they had put a retaining wall so they could have like the grassy area. And what he would do, and looking back, it's like, really? He would take I don't know if he would use blocks of wood or wheel. I forget what he used maybe it's cinder blocks. He'd stack them up, and he'd put them out probably 6 feet or so from that retaining wall. And he'd take that Model A and he would drive it off the end of the retaining wall onto, like, I don't know, they were 2x8s. And they weren't even reinforced 2x8s. They were just regular pieces of plank. And he would drive the Model A out over top of that so he could get underneath it and change the oil and stuff like that. Looking back on that, it's like, that was pretty risky. Pretty risky. Trusting blocks of wood and cinder blocks to do the job. Okay, my voice is starting to go. I can feel it. It's getting rough. So I'm going to have to call it. I'm going to call it a night. It's been fun. It's been really good. I've got some new names of people that I haven't seen before, and I'm glad people are showing up and participating. It's always fun to have questions and comments and pictures and all that sort of thing. And yeah, I'll be back again next Monday on the 19th, and we'll do it again at 7 o'clock. So that will be it for tonight. And until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.